Which of my photographs is my favorite? The one I'm going to take tomorrow.
Life is my subject matter. Hey, welcome to the Street Shots Photography Podcast. This is Antonio.
And this is Ward.
And this is episode 222 for
222.
the end of 222 for the end of 2024, the end of 2020. God.
All right.
Remember there was a show on called Room 222.
Yeah, Karen Valentine.
Do you remember what it was about? Do you remember what it was about?
It was either high school or first year. Paper chase was first year law.
Paper chase.
But Room 222, I think, was high school.
Was it high school?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I happen to, in order to keep with our, standards of looking at area codes, there is no area code for 222. In fact, when I looked it up, it says 222, not in use, available for non-geographic assignment. But then I looked up further and I found that 222 is part of what's called a one-ring scam, a phone scam, because, well, right now 222 is the area code for the West African nation of Mauritania.
Oh, okay.
And
That's
there are
code.
robocalls that...
Yeah, is it a country code?
Yeah, it's a country code. And there are robocalls that originate from there. And what happens is there's a scam. This is public service announcement for everybody. If you get a call that starts with 222, an area code, it's coming from Mauritania. And what they're trying to do is they call late at night. The scam is they call late at night and they hang up when you answer the phone. And what they want to do is get you to call back. That's as far as I got into the reading of the scam, but the calling back is somehow the beginning of the scam.
Okay.
So but it's the one ring scam 222. So I don't think we'll be doing any scamming tonight, nor I don't have any information about Mauritania personally. So we'll just, but if you're listening in Mauritania, hi, welcome to the show, join the club, got cameras and stuff like that. Right. Yeah. We're all inclusive. Every country can come and join us.
Yep.
Right.
Okay. That's all good. We like to have listeners from all over the world.
Yeah. We should be a ham radio station too. We could, broadcast. Can we still do that? Is there still people who listen to ham radio?
Yeah.
I guess there has to be.
Yeah.
All right. So how was we're recording this after Christmas. So, just a couple of days.
Good.
So
we had a quiet family get together. My daughter came from Japan and four of us sat around and did the Christmas cracker thing with the whatever. And I got
the Christmas cracker. You're talking about the
little popper
the thing that you pull apart and it explodes. Yeah, popper thing.
So I got a compass.
So it was some sort
nice. It looked nice. It doesn't really work, but
a compass?
Compass, yeah.
You mean like that points to north?
Well,
kind of thing?
Sort of points north. It's somewhere between straight east and straight west. So it's northerly.
It gets you there eventually.
And my son, who's big into cards and fantasy games and all that kind of stuff, he got a tiny deck of cards, which is
tiny deck of cards.
Tiny, those little
those little teeny ones are like an inch. Yeah. How do you shuffle those?
He can't.
He can't bend them.
He was complaining. He was trying to come up with strategies on how to shuffle it. Yeah.
No, you just throw them on the ground and then you pick them up again. Is what I think.
So
you can play with little tiny little chips. Like if you play poker, it's like little tiny chips and on a little teeny green table. Sorry.
Little tablets or something like
little tablets. Yeah. You get little drinks, like little coasters and little drinks. Yeah. I'm just imagining. I'm sorry. I'm playing this out to its logical, absurd conclusion.
Yeah, exactly. Right into oblivion on that one. That's
okay. Well,
it's all good. What about you? How's your holiday?
My holiday is great. I have my girlfriend has visited me again.
Nice.
She's spent Christmas here, and we exchanged gifts. And what did I get? I cannot remember. No,
she gave me Nebraska swag. I think you sent us a picture.
I did. I did get some Nebraska swag. I've got, I think this hat, which looks like a Netflix hat. So when someone asks, what is that? I was like, it's Netflix or the Cornhuskers hat. It was got a black hat with a big red N on it. I did get a t-shirt. She gave me a big thing of pasta that's got 6 different really interesting pastas in it. So like a big, like hexagonal box that's got like 6 pounds of pasta. And the idea is that she's got one too. And so that we're going to like try to create, when she gets back, and we'll create a recipe, and then we'll each use that one bag, and we'll try to do the same recipe. Cool. And what else did I get? I got something. I got a couple. I can't even believe it. It's all in the other room, so I can't remember all of the stuff.
I got some. I think you got a water bottle or a water thing that had some Nebraska stuff on it. I'm trying to think of the picture.
No, but I don't think I got the water bottle.
Okay.
Maybe those were stickers. Anyway, and of course I gave her pens and ink.
Okay, of course.
because I'm so predictable.
The snail mail is the way to go.
Yeah, and and I figured because she likes fountain pens and ink and stuff like that. And I know I got each of us a coloring book, but it was like a really fancy coloring book for fountain pen inks. Oh. And we figured we'd color them together. This is very kind of, nice stuff to do when we're at a distance. So, and we watched Die Hard, because Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
Yeah.
And Hans Gruber falls off the,
plaza.
Once he hits the pavement, then, that's the beginning of something. It's the official start of Christmas or so.
Alan Rickman.
Oh, did I just spoil it? Yes. Did I just spoil it for anybody who hasn't watched Die Hard? I heard that was his first film. That was Alan Rickman's first movie.
Could be. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. He was so good in that. When that movie came out in 1988. It was the first of its kind. Like, there was never a film like that before, where this, lone guy is like, in the middle of a crazy situation. And then now, like, it's a genre of films. Which, I remember the next one was something with Steven Seagal or something like that. When he's on a battleship or something. Anyway, sorry, I'm going off on this. Okay. But what we did tonight before we are recording, we actually went into the city to go look at the Rockefeller Center tree. New York City at this time of year is the most insane place you can be. It is just, I can't believe the island isn't sinking because of the extra weight of all the people. But you go to these places and it's just packed. I mean, we knew it was going to be packed, but we went there and managed to squeeze a few pictures, and it was just insanely crazy. And we ended up coming back to Brooklyn. So we went to this place called Junior's, which is Junior's cheesecake and stuff like that. And that's what we're having for dinner. We're not having cheesecake.
That's why the
dessert for dinner.
Okay.
Yeah, you're having dessert. But then we went to this area. If you're in this area in Brooklyn called Dyker Heights, and if you ever come to New York, this is for everybody. It was one of those, it's not so unknown, but I think because it's a little bit out of the way, it's a little harder for people to get to, but it's well worth it, because this whole neighborhood down in southern Brooklyn, it's like they all cooperate and they all cover their houses in the most insane Christmas lights that you ever saw. Even like Scrooge, if you went there, you would fall in love with Christmas. There's like no way you can't, it's just insane the way people do their houses up. So we just came back in from there, and it was as brilliant and exciting as you can imagine. And she was very excited. And I haven't been there in a few years, so it was really exciting to see again. And it's not as crowded. I mean, it is crowded, but it's not as crowded as going into the city. But it offers a lot of really nice, Christmas light photographs and people's selfies in front of things. It's a nice, cheery thing. And I think the people in the neighborhood do it not because they're not out to sell anything, because it's really just a residential neighborhood. So there's no stores or anything like that. I think they really just do it, to show off. But it becomes this destination now. So
very cool.
If you ever come into New York, I think after Thanksgiving is when they set the lights up, go check out Dyker Heights in Brooklyn. It's well worth the trek for you to get there. And, and look at what people do. So I don't think maybe I'll post some pictures in the show notes. I'll try to remember to do that. I've not been so good with the show notes lately. Forgive me, everybody.
No,
so
it's all cool.
Yeah. But so, here's our last show of 2024. We actually managed to do what? We do 2 episodes a month, right? So we did 24 episodes.
Yeah.
I kind of wonder if we should do this as a season. Like, should we start making seasons up? I don't know how you do that. Because if we have a season, that means we'd have to have a break. So, we're going to go right into this in
we
January.
don't necessarily have to have a break. We can just call it a season.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Well,
we're about to go into 2024, but the first thing I want to acknowledge is that one of our listeners, Dan Sudberg, bought us a coffee.
Yay!
And yay! Thanks, Dan. He's our I can't talk anymore. He's
producer.
Honorary producer for the show today. He wrote a nice note. He said, appreciate the podcast, casual, comfortable, informative, interesting, and entertaining. So I'm sorry, Dan, I haven't replied to you yet. It's been, the holiday season, but I'm replying to you now. I'll get to you, but thank you so much for buying us a coffee. I really appreciate it.
That's great. I like any kind of positive feedback. You'd be surprised what an impact it has on us when we get feedback from folks, because we do our recordings and we send them out onto the internet, and it's nice to actually have real human feedback to what we're doing. So it's great.
And I've come across a lot of people. Some people have been taking my classes, and they said, I listened to your podcast. I heard your voice sounds familiar. Like, people like accidentally listen to it, something like that. Mm-hmm. And so I still hear a lot of folks, unofficially saying how much they like what we're doing here. So, I don't know how we can improve it other than yes, we went through this whole year, I think, without interviewing anybody. Was that true? It's possible.
I don't know.
So forgive me for that.
I don't know.
Well, let's say we did. And I know. There's a lot of people who have, I've asked and they said, yeah, sure. No, we talked to Gino this year. I don't know if we did. We didn't talk to, oh, what's his name? Why am I spacing out on his name? Well, we had Jeffrey on. Jeffrey. Yeah. Excuse me. I'm sorry, Jeffrey. Yeah, we forgot. Yeah, it was this year. And our from the UK, what's his name? Sean Tucker.
Yes.
Was that this year? That was early this year, wasn't it? I think. No, or was it last
year?
It was last year. All right.
Because you went to see him this year.
I went to see him this year. Yeah. And he remembered us. And so that was good. But if anything, if things begin to settle down, maybe for me next year, because if anybody hasn't produced a podcast or anything like that, it is a lot of work, and even just we're doing this sort of casually and stuff like that, and it still ends up being a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot of work, but if we're arranging to have someone on the show, you're 3 hours, 2 hours, you're 2 hours behind me, I'm here. Mm-hmm. And, if we go to, especially for someone in like the UK or something like that, we generally have to do on a early morning and stuff like that. And you're working stiff, you're a working guy. So your days are different these days. So anyway, let's see what we can do this. Maybe we can find some, more people. I would like to talk to people because I find myself getting inspired by, everybody we've talked to, I've gotten inspired by. So,
we've got
it was really great. We've
got a list. We should dive back into it.
Yeah. So, no definitive promises. I'm not making any resolutions because those are the kind of things that they fail all the time. But I would like to let's see what we can do this year as stuff goes on. But I thought maybe we could sort of go over this year a little bit, a little bit of a review and I don't know. You said we said stuff that stuck with us
this year. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure where to start. I'm thinking back by all of our episodes. I was going by the names of the episodes, trying to remember what we did. But I don't know. What was anything initially pop in your head? I've been talking too long. So
yeah, I think I discovered more of a documentary, in terms of my work, getting more comfortable with having a more documentary and not so much of a gotcha kind of style, which is good. I think it's a maturing that's going on. Where I felt it the most was that stampede that I go to every year, I was actually
Mm-hmm.
in the party tent stopping people and asking them if I could take their picture, which I'd never done before in the 40
What?
plus years I've been going there.
Oh, yeah. What made you? Where do you think that came from? I mean, why this year? What was the?
That's a good question.
Was it anything that was it anything? Well, first of all, I mean, not to like say it has anything to do with the show, but was there anything that we talked about that sort of like even we've been doing the show together for at least a few years now, more than a few years. But was there anything that sort of accumulated in like our discussions that brought that out?
If our discussions, and also the year before, I had taken those pictures of my women friends, right, and my mother,
Right,
and
right.
so there was can I, and it, kind of a formal thing, like, can I come and take your picture? And I think maybe that just resonated with me through the year. And then this year, I'm like, well, I have an opportunity. A lot of these people I know, why don't I just ask them? Or our families know each other or something.
Yeah.
And I treated the dance more like a combination of documentary and portraiture. And it was good.
Really?
Yeah. And I felt really good about the images I got out of that. There's that.
Oh, well, that's good. You want to do a back and forth kind of thing?
You're next.
Just,
Tag, you're it.
You're next. Yeah, I guess we can just sort of jump around because I don't have that version of it. Although, like, I want to bookmark what you're talking about because that idea of, I get a lot of students who come up to me in my street photography class and ask me, how do you deal with like going up to somebody and talking to them or photographing them on the street? And I said, well, I solved that because I'm photographing candidly. So I don't do that. But that occasion where I would want to approach somebody or pull them out of their routine or whatever they're doing and talk to them. So that, like, I want to bookmark that as a thing to follow up on. The one thing that popped in my mind when I thought about doing this, sort of going back, was how much, first of all, that I had learned about the photographer Trent Parke. I had not known about him prior to this year. And, we did our little show, Walk in the Park. And that actually has had, I think, the most amount of listens to in this whole year when I looked at the stats. So I was interested about that. Like, why were so many more people downloading that episode? And I'm not sure. I have no way. We have no way to figure this stuff out, right? There's no stats. There's no feedback that we're getting. Please send us feedback. We're really curious about it. But I'm really, I was wondering about that. But for my personal part of that was, I mean, maybe I had heard about him prior. Maybe you and I, mentioned his book to me or something like that. But it didn't quite.
Yeah, I've had Minutes to Midnight since 2018. I've had that book, or whenever it came out. I had it for quite a while.
Yeah, but I wouldn't have known, like, again, I'm sure we've talked about it, but for some reason it was this year when I purchased the book Monument from him, from the new thing. And I can't remember how I found out about that, whether it was you told me or something.
Something like
when
that.
When I bought that book, and if we go back to that episode, but I'm not going to play it, but I remember the tactile experience I was having when I was looking through that book, and the whole sort of story that he's telling with this thing. And then all of a sudden, like, his name is popping up on my YouTube playlist and stuff like that. And so I'm watching videos about him, and I end up buying, a mint copy of Minutes to Midnight for a lot of money, by the way.
I tried to talk you out of it too late, but
no, I don't regret it. I don't regret it at all because, there's something, I don't think I've picked up on a photographer so fast, or maybe any artist. That's not true. Maybe there's a few artists picked on someone so quickly, especially when I looked through Monument for the first time, and this experience that I've never had when I looked through a book before. And to go from that to, spending the most amount of money I've ever spent on a photo book, because I would say I've fallen in love with the guy, but this work really speaks to me in some level that I don't quite still have words for.
Yeah.
Maybe I want to like revisit him sometime. And we did have an offer from somebody to try to, set up an interview with him.
Yeah, and I think
fingers crossed that
and I've
Moving, right?
forgotten his name, but he's friends or knows Norelle, Trent's wife, who's
Yeah.
editor, helps with creating the books. So
Yeah. So, if anybody's listening to this show and happens to have a, an in with Trent Parke, let us know. I know we didn't.
I think it's very cool. Sorry
Yeah.
to take,
Yeah, go ahead.
derail the conversation, but I really am interested in your reaction because you have a very strong reaction to his work. And it's very unusual. It's kind of otherworldly, his literally and figuratively, especially with Monument. But
Yeah.
there's something about 8 Minutes to Midnight too, where the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. There's just some aura about it, about his books, especially, that is unusual and unique, authentic, special. That's all of those things.
Not to judge a book by its title, but the titles of his books so far have been really sent me into this, Minutes to Midnight is such that just that title evokes something, and I don't know what.
Yeah.
And Monuments is such a simple, it's a simple title for that. And I also got some effect by it. I don't know. Mm-hmm. So it's the whole package too. We talked about this a bazillion times, but if you can, this idea of the photo book and how it can be itself this work of art, like photography doesn't have to be only seen on a screen or printed and hung on a wall. Like the book it may be one of the better ways to view photography. I mean, I don't know if we ever discussed that in terms of what is, what would be the best way to experience a photographer's work? I mean, is it in a gallery?
It's my favorite way to consume photography easily.
Yeah. It's very personal experience because it's really just you and the photographer speaking to each other, the photographer speaking to you by looking through the book.
And also it's a thing you like to carry, like you have a favorite book, I have favorite photo books, It changes every month, what my favorite photo book is, but it's a thing you get to carry around, you have beside you. And, it's an object. So.
Yeah. And also you're the caretaker of it. I mean, I believe that whatever books I have are going to outlast me because at some point, one hopes that they won't end up in the trash, but somehow they will continue on because we don't throw books away. Anyway, that's my one thing. I'll throw it back to you.
Let's see. In terms of work, going back to work, because it's really all I think about. I'm thinking about work or like by work, I mean photographic output or planning. So I'll get to planning next, but the work part is these little discovery with my phone in my hometown. Where I did those black and white images of what I called the thing itself, the car and the shed, and
right,
back of the high school and all that kind of stuff. This whole kind of very formal, simple compositions that give me, it's sort of the way I would want to, now anyway, the way I would want to photograph my hometown, sort of from now on. Just details, there's enough in the image for you to look it over. It's not it's just a thing and that's it. Sort of like if you want to look into the image more, you see more detail and you're actually discovering things about that small town. And I found it really satisfying. And that just went on a lark. I was visiting my mother for some other reason. They helped clean up her house or whatever. And I just went out in the warm weather and in the time where you would usually walk the dog, but the dog's not, I'm not out with the dog. So I got to get some exercise some other way. And it was good and fun and satisfying. So that's about it for that one, I think. So it just made me feel good.
Great.
So I throw it back to you, my friend. What's another thing I think?
What's another thing? Well, I do want to, bring in the elephant in the room about AI. And I wasn't sure if it was this year or was it last year. We talked about next year is going to be this. And then it turned out to be even more of that, and this year, the thing that sparked this sort of memory or wanting to go back was I just got an email from Magnum, the photo agency Magnum, and I want it struck a tone that I want to sort of discuss a little bit. But let me just go into AI for a second. I mean, it's almost like the battle lines are drawing and the battle lines are shifting, and it's funny to call them battle lines. There are people that we know, you and I know, who are fighting this influx of AI imagery, and the more I look at it, and this year, the more I look at it, the more I'm convinced that photography as a career is being whittled away very fast. I think as well. Even I in one of my photo journals, I had printed some pictures that might have been not been Midjourney. I think it was ChatGPT made these images of rooms like empty rooms, and I had like fed in some images from the painter that I sort of fallen in love with, the Wilhelm Hammershøi, and I said create a photorealistic image of this, and it came out, and I was of course I'm impressed. I mean, that's almost without saying, is that these images that are being spit out by some of these models are just perhaps indistinguishable, especially if they're like they don't have people in them. But even the ones with people are getting so much better. But I actually printed out like 6 of these AI pictures and I put them in my photo journal, and I said I had to write about them. I don't remember what I wrote about it, but it was at the point that I had to say something about it. Anyway, we're at the point now in December of 2024 where, I don't know how many different places or things on the internet are able to make photorealistic imagery with AI, and the hands are getting better and all this other nonsense. But the thing that caught me about this Magnum email that I just got literally this morning, or I think it was this morning or yesterday, was they used a word, and I'm gonna read a little bit of it if you guys can indulge me for a second here. So it came in this morning. I said on November 14th, 2024, the Magnum Board of Photographers issued the following statement concerning artificial intelligence and its position on synthetic images in the cooperative's 77-year-old archive. So I won't go into the whole thing. I really just wanted to read that first paragraph. It just talks about they've joined as a cooperative. They joined a group of individuals called Writing with Light and so on. I just won't read the whole thing. But that word synthetic is what sort of triggered me in something, because that was the first time I saw that word in regards to AI imagery. And what I ended up thinking about what synthetic could mean in their context when they were writing about it was that it carried less of an emotional charge than the word fake. It was a very neutral word, whereas fake sort of implies that you're lying and dishonesty. But synthetic is really just like it's almost a factual word. This image is synthetic, but they're also kind of hedging their bets about like not trying to trigger anybody where AI imagery is being used in a responsible, useful way, right? So they're sort of leaving the door open for that. They are saying that they're not going to accept like in synthetic images in their archive because it makes sense. Magnum is a photojournalistic agency, and that AI imagery just goes against that, of course. But they are kind of like saying, they're not dismissing the concept that AI imagery is here and it's going to be doing things. So I thought that was just a very interesting. It was that word synthetic that just triggered that off. And because, we're all sort of we're now using, well, if you've been using Photoshop for the past, I don't know how many years, they've been using AI for most of the retouching tools, right? And they weren't calling it that. I mean, they weren't calling it generative AI or something like that, but like, content aware remove is artificial intelligence sort of built in there. So, that is and that's responsible usage, right? I think, because
the 3 rules that they came up with, I think are very succinct. And I think you want to read them or I can read them. The rules that they came up with. So they're saying here in its statement of principles, writing with light covers 3 crucial rules, and this is what Magnum is aligning themselves, who they're aligning themselves with. Number 1, as recordings of visible journalistic photographs, they must be fair and accurate representations of what the photographer witnessed. Fair enough. Number 2, neither alterations to a photograph that mislead the public nor staging events while depicting them as spontaneous are acceptable in journalism. That's a tenet that's always been there.
Right.
Nor should one publish a photorealistic synthetic image made by artificial intelligence and pretend it's an actual photograph. I mean, I don't think you could cover that in any fewer words. I think that is perfect wording. And then to go to your Photoshop point, number 3 is any deviations from these basic principles must be explained in a caption, credit, or appropriate icon. You know, a little thing that says the M on it says modify it or whatever.
Right.
So I think these are great, succinct rules for what should go into the archive.
Right. And it makes perfect sense. I mean, they're going to be coexisting we're all going to coexist with artificial intelligence, imagery and video and whatever else is coming down the pipe. And it'll be really interesting to see where we're at next year at this time when we're sitting in these chairs. Me saying, what's the summary of this year in artificial intelligence? I mean, I'm thinking that it's reached a certain point in its evolution. I mean, I think it's probably leveling off because, again, with some certain, the next thing is video, but with certain imagery, you just can't tell. Yeah, I know there's issues with hands and stuff like that, but I've seen some stuff where there's no issues with hands, and you just look at the picture and you're like, okay, that looks like, there you go. There goes the modeling business. There goes the catering business. There goes the, some part of photography business. It all gets eaten away slightly. And I don't know where that's going to leave us a year from now, or where it's going to leave other photographers. I mean, you and I will still be doing our street photography and stuff. And I would say we fall under, as street photographers, if we want to categorize ourselves as that, we sort of fall into the sort of journalistic documentary kind of thing, where we're sort of recording what's reality and stuff like that. It'll be really interesting to follow with this, but I'm not sure I have the concerns anymore, because just like anything, I get really, you can only hold those emotions so much in your life. Like, how much more can I get concerned about AI imagery? It's here, the genie's out of the bottle. And, I want to say it's time to move on, but all I can do now is focus on the kind of photography I want to do. And yeah, I've been using the generative remove tools. I've tried those generative, here we go, sirens. I've tried those, like the ones where you add stuff, the generative addition stuff. And, I played with it and it's like, okay, that's fun for 18 seconds. Yeah. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. But certainly, like, removing that telephone wire from the sky, seems to do no harm or whatever. But I don't know. I'm not sure where I'm going with this, but I do want to acknowledge that AI is there. And now it's starting to leak into the cameras, especially with, this is in Sony cameras, any camera that now has the ability to focus on subjects, right? Planes, trains, cars, helmets, that's all using AI. And there's, actually, I'm curious about that. I don't know if this is an issue, but like, will a place like Magnum or any of these agencies start to question about the artificial intelligence that's built to cameras? Where, I'm not, is this something you think where, cameras are now doing the thinking for you in terms of like, okay, well, they're going to focus on this person or they're going to focus on that. Or, maybe that's making a mountain out of a molehill or something like that. Well, I don't know.
Is it the Canon system or is it the Nikon system where you give it a catalog of the heads of the athletes that you're going to photograph and it recognizes them?
I don't know that.
Yeah. I've forgotten what system that is, but you can put up to 6.
That sounds like athletes. A Canon thing, actually.
Okay. So I
really?
think yeah.
Oh,
so
okay. This is all news to me.
So you can have it follow, is it basketball, volleyball, and I've forgotten the third sport, soccer. So they're ball related games where the camera will track where the ball goes and it goes to another athlete. And then it does the human recognition on that, and it focuses on that athlete that gets the ball.
Wow.
Okay. And they found it did work pretty well. Yeah. Christian Jordan from Petapixel, they did a test at a basketball game. And
okay.
It worked.
I'll have to look at
it seemed to work. They're kind of gently amazed by it. That's the way I would put it. It seemed to work.
Well, I imagine this time next year, I mean, as they start to incorporate some of this stuff that are in smartphones into cameras. I mean, smartphones have the advantage because they're just essentially computers, so they have a more processing power than a camera. Mm-hmm. But I imagine that crossover will start to happen sooner or later as we'll start getting more stuff packed into a camera. And so I don't know why I don't know about this, about the athletes that you could feed in images into your camera. But I wonder what will that do? Because in that sense, it's augmenting the photographer's skills, or even maybe surpassing the skills. And will an agency then start to judge photographers based on, because then anybody who has that camera, let's just say, let's play it out a little bit. If you got a camera that's automatically, like, you can feed in the entire basketball team into your camera, do you need to be a professional to be able to shoot that? No, really. I mean, then the camera's doing all the work for you. Yeah.
You just set up cameras in strategic locations around the court.
Right. Right. And so you no longer perhaps need to have that, like a Walter Eos or, name any sports photographers who's doing this for years. Will that be the case, that those types of photographers will no longer be needed or desired because someone who walks in, I've got 3 of these Canon cameras and I can capture both teams just by myself and whatnot. And so anyway, to be continued.
I was talking before about my hometown, and the next thing is, and I've been dragging this on, and I'm not leaving for another 3 months, but the planning that's going into my Japan trip, like I'm really enjoying that and dreaming up ideas and looking at my Japanese photo books and kind of centering myself in that and getting the mindset for when I go over there. I think it's a worthy thing to do, even if my pictures don't turn out as good as I hope. It's just a thing that I really enjoy doing, thinking about it and planning.
Is that something that built up? Is that something that built up for you over the year, though?
Yeah, it did. Yeah. I mean, because I started thinking about
when did you know you were going on the trip?
I booked it. Oh goodness, probably midsummer. But I knew I was for sure going to go to Japan when my daughter got the job there. I'm like, now I don't need an excuse not to go. Now I can actually go and I can start planning for it. That's where the seed, got laid down. And then, talking with her about timing and all that kind of stuff. And then now I'm starting to think about, okay, what is it that I can do? What subject matter, what time of day, what locales am I going to go to? And then trying to be as methodic as I can in the way my idea of being methodic it's not like racks and racks of notes. It's sort of like little trigger words that came from ChatGPT about how to think about things and, come up with those 4 buckets of whatever psychology of the images. And then when I go out to shoot, I'll pick 2 of them and try and work around that. And then it's just a matter of working with what I'm walking into. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, that's big. I mean, if, like I say, if things don't work out, fine, but it just seems like a very good way to use my time and energy and focus on this planning. Maybe it feels like what you're doing when you're storyboarding a movie. I don't know. Maybe it's the same kind of flush of creativity, even though nothing has come of it yet. It's the planning part, and I understand why people are less satisfying.
Well, yeah, I mean, almost less like a cinema verite movie where you're just sort of walking into this situation with a jumbly camera and you're doing things here. Although that can be very planned out as well. I don't mean to say that cinema verite is this, random thing, but like when we talked about this before, if I go someplace, I have never thought about doing what you're doing, like in terms of like planning and like being methodical. And do you think that doesn't leave any room open for improvisation, or do you think it does? Or is you think those are two different mindsets?
No, you shoot whatever you're going to shoot. You're going to do the tourist stuff because you're there. You're going to run into things that fall outside of your thought, outside of your thought, but what your plans are, and I will shoot those. Nothing will stop me from shooting those. It's just you get rid of the feeling of I am here. What am I going to start shooting? Like I was in Mexico. Well, it's sort of like, what is it that I'm here for? Like it was like, I was not exactly freaked out. I guess I was freaked out a little bit. Like, I don't know. I don't know where to start kind of feeling.
Yeah.
Right.
But what I'm asking is like, I mean, I can also say we could point to like a jazz musician where there is room for both reading the music and the song and then improvising.
Yeah.
Right. And so where the song is written out and it's space and the notes that you have to play, but there's space for, bringing in something totally new. And what I'm imagining you're doing is that you're doing all this planning and stuff like that, but you can't necessarily stick to the script that you're doing. And so that you think you will have room for, I guess this is a question, will you have room for improv?
Yeah.
And I'm imagining you're going to say, because you have to have room for it, right?
And also it's our resting state anyway. Like when we're out there shooting, it is all improvisation. So it's just,
that's true.
We have, the time when I'm the most focused is on the Stampede Midway. And that is, I have a very specific agenda in mind to shoot those images, but that's like playing a lot of the same chords, right? So this will be good because there'll be different times of day. I mean, really what I'm after is I want there to be something at the end of this, like a book or a zine or a folio.
Yeah.
And I'm there for less than 2 weeks. I thought I was there for more, but I'm just there for whatever it is, 11 days. I want to make very good use of the time there so that I'm not, I will have enough interesting work that I'll be able to, do something with it. If it means a second trip, well, there will be a second trip. I'm definitely
but maybe that's a second volume or something. But what it sounds like you don't want, or what you are working at, is not leaving something like an open-ended, like, well, I'm going to go there, photograph, and then throw the pictures on Lightroom, and then that was fun, and go on to the next thing. You've got this definite 2 weeks is a great amount of time. I mean, maybe you could do, I'm not saying you would do this, but there's nothing wrong with saying, well, if I was only going to be in this place for one day, I would make as best use of it as possible. And I would come out with a zine when I'm done, as long as I had the pictures and stuff. Yeah. So, okay. That's okay. Well, to be continued. When are you going again? Remind us when you're going.
End of March, beginning of April.
End of March. Right. So that's about the time when we're recording. So I'll have to find some guest hosts.
And I discovered yesterday that the expo, the World's Fair, is going to be in Osaka 4 days after I leave.
Oh, well, maybe
the Osaka sponsored the World's Fair in the 70s, 1974. So
okay.
they've got a venue and everything. So I'm going to see if I can get anywhere near the construction site, because there's a giant wooden structure apparently they've built. So it'll be very near completion by the time I get there. And so just that's one thing. Like that's one thing I learned. I'm going to add it on my day trip or 2 days in Osaka. I'll make a point of going there and seeing what's going on.
Yeah. So I'm going to speak for everybody who's listening. We're expecting a lot from you.
Well, I keep talking about it.
You better.
But I also say,
you better show up on this.
Even if nothing comes of it, I try and say that.
I know. How can nothing come of it?
It's bad luck to do that. But what I'm trying to impart is not to try and impress you and to tell you something really cool is coming. It's to let everybody know that I really like to do this planning. And that if you're in my position, I would encourage you to do the same and have fun thinking about what you're doing before you do it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, as street photographers, especially, most of our work sucks.
Don't tell.
No, that's the dirty secret of street photography.
Yeah. Everybody who's listening to this, don't say that to anybody.
We don't want to discourage people.
Yeah.
But
all right.
I want to go in with a mindset of, and I was thinking about this the other day too, not just planning what, but as part of your mindset, don't think about what you're not going to cover. Think about what you can do and have that. It's unintentionally positive, even though some of the subject matter I'll be shooting, I'm sure will be quite dark. There's, you know, come from a point of view of what you can do, what you can offer, as opposed to chewing your fingernails and being concerned about what you can't do when you're in that situation. And I think, you know, you and I have talked with new photographers who are like, I don't know what to do. Like, you know, no one knows what they're going to do when they go out for their photo walk.
Right.
You make those discoveries and you go into it with a positive attitude. Like, I'm going to cover, like, I have no idea what I'm going to cover and do the best I can. And then what comes out the other end comes out the other end. You can't torpedo your hope with that negativity. So all of that is
because it's all about, it's all part of the exploring, right? And exploring, if you have a map and you know where the map is, it takes away a lot of the pleasure and mystery of something, you know? And so, I mean, I was saying that you shouldn't have a map, but if you know everything along the way, then you might go into it with just, anyway, sorry, I'm going to, no, that actually the train of thought is wrong. I know.
No, but I'll kind of finish that thought. And my idea was, I'm not going there as a tourist. I'm not going there for a particular, oh my gosh, kind of discovery.
Right.
I'm looking at Google Street View. I want to know how long it's going to take me to walk from the train station to my daughter's house, or where it's in Dotonbori. I'm going to be, you know, walk this street and then that street. I'm doing all that, but I'm not doing it. I'm not going as a typical tourist. The point of me going there is to create content for a book, for a folio.
Right.
And so that's the point of view. I'm prepping for a kind of a mission, actually, as much as I am. It's a vacation. Yes, it's a vacation, but it's working to create this product at the end. It's a different priority. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you for that. All right. I think we might have time for a couple of more, right? So in terms of time, did you start off or did I start off? You started off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I just finished my point. So I'm
I don't know. I know. I'm just like, I wanted to see if I can make it even. Maybe we just got time for one more.
Okay.
Maybe we'll do time for one more.
All right.
And we've done it even. I just realized there's so much we've talked about this year, and there's so much that has influenced me. This is not my thing yet, but I did notice over the year, because my Lightroom catalog is very low in the amount of pictures. And I'm not sure where that's coming from. There's been, I mean, you know, as everybody knows, the personal stuff that's been going on in my life that I've mentioned affects me. But I've been, you know, really trying to take my camera out and move. And I'm not sure that I can judge my year by like the amount of pictures I've taken. I don't know if that says I'm doing better this year or I'm doing worse or anything. I don't know if that's a metric worth, but I am noticing that I have been taking less pictures. I haven't had to add more hard drives to my archive bank, you know, not yet. I'm still been like shuffling stuff around. So that's interesting. And, you know, I did get the one new camera, which is not really a new camera. It's the same old camera, just in a new body, you know, the X100V, but that came in later in the year. So it didn't really play an issue. That being said, the last thing, I'm going to go back to the photographers that I've learned about this year. First of all, I mean, I did say Trent Parke. I mean, I knew a little bit about him before, but was some of the people we've talked about, Eva Rubinstein, Jessica Lang, who I didn't even know was a photographer, Todd Hido, excuse me, Anne Noggle,
I think that's how we decided.
Pronouncing your name right. Brian Schutmuth, we talked about, whose book I ended up buying. I don't know where it is now.
I missed that boat. I said I was going to.
You missed that boat. It was the most beautiful book, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna wrap up this part of it. this is not somebody new, but Vivian Maier. So having gone to her show, the show of her work, I should say, at Fotografiska in the city that closed in September, that affected me deeply as well. But all these photographers, like, first of all, just like putting a list together of like who are the new photographers in my circles now that I'm thinking about. And there's a bazillion of them. I mean, I went to that the book show at the ICP, and if I was there was so much good work there. I mean, it's like it's everywhere. So, we're not going to say this is a resolution or something like that, but I do want to spend some more time in the future, not necessarily next year specifically, but, in the future, finding newer photographers. I've spent so much time with photographers we've known already for so long. It's really fun to find somebody new. And you've pointed out a few of them to me. Very surprised at that. But anyway, I want to just go back to Vivian Maier's work, because the show to me was like, if you guys remember when I went to Irving Penn's show, way back at the, when it was at the Met, and it was a retrospective of his work. And he's a hero of mine, of course. To see Vivian's work sort of treated in the same way, even though she was not the same kind of photographer, and to see it presented the way it was, and to learn a little bit more about her, and just sort of dive into to sort of the same kind of experience, I think, or similar experience that you had with, what's her name's work, the show, Diane Arbus, right? That I'm walking through this thing, looking at her prints and feeling something in my body and in my psyche with her, and something that she probably could not have ever anticipated in her life, I imagine. And to come out of that, like raring, like when I walked out of the show, I was like, my camera was in my hand, and I'm like taking pictures of everybody on the street. Crappy shots, of course, but
remember, most of your work sucks. That's
most of my work sucks, but that to have that kind of drive. And the things I learned about so the show was so impactful that I even changed my street photography class, because when I was going through the show, I literally photographed every single one of her prints with my phone, right? And it's not because I want to print them or doing anything like that. I wanted to show my future street photography classes this woman's work, because for a couple of reasons. I mean, first of all, it's beautiful and it's very accessible, right? I like to show it to students because when you look at it, you can just say, I can do work like that. Like, pictures of hands and, whatever she's doing. People on the Staten Island ferry, like do modern versions of that. But I just find it very accessible and very inspiring. And so if I was going to say that one show, I mean, I didn't see a lot of shows this year, but like one group of photographs really, really inspired me. It was that show. And also to learn a little bit more about her in terms of like you could hear her voice in it, but also that her own choice. This is, I think, the most important learning I've had of her. Her choice of what her images are going to look like, because they showed her prints. I talked about this before, compared to her overall frame. Her choice of cropping sucked. Excuse me. I'm sorry to say this, Vivian, wherever you are in the universe, but please, your conscious mind did not know what it was doing. Your subconscious, on the other hand, knew exactly what it was doing, because every single one of her frames was gorgeous. And to think that we could be running these reels in our head in a couple of different ways, where one part of our inner self knows what we want, and then we get clouded by this conscious self that thinks, okay, well, I think I know better, right? And, we say, I'm going to do this or I'm going to change that. But somewhere in the back, running in a silent reel is that other quiet self that says, no, I know the frame. This is the frame, trust me on this and stuff like that. And, maybe how to take those two and bring them a little closer together would be an interesting, experiment, or how to even manage that. So anyway, her work, I don't know. I feel like if I had to pick one thing that would have affected me for the whole year, I would have to say that show. And like I said, I did photograph all of her pictures, and I tooled my slideshow for my photography, my street photography class. I said, if you didn't see the Vivian Maier show, here it is. And I didn't show all the pictures, but I said, and I also said, I'm going to shut up and I'm going to play the show, and you just look at the pictures, and I listen to the the exclamations of the students, and some people, you hear little sounds and stuff like that, and that feels really good. And so, anyway, that would have been my kind of my big takeaway from this year. I think is seeing that kind of work, and also like maybe trying to see if I can seek out more of that, because I realize how much like interacting or being with a photograph or a photographer in that manner brings a bodily, experience to this thing that we call photography, So
cool.
Yeah. So I think that might be it. Right?
I got to think one short one.
One short one. Okay,
we'll make it real short.
Yeah.
Rediscovering film photographer. Well, because Vivian Meyer reminded me, she is
yeah.
I have a late 50s Rolleicord, not as fancy as her Rolleiflex, but the glass is just as good, I think. And I gave my son my Yashica Mat 124, and he and I have gone out a couple of times in the summertime shooting color and black and white on our twin lens cameras, and good bonding, father-son bonding experience, and kind of the fun and of film photography. But without the chemicals, we have a local lab scan them, and I get the negatives, and then we put them in Lightroom Mobile, and we have fun with it. So
less toxicity,
this,
right?
Yes. And that darker in the palm of your hand, man, it is the best.
Yeah. Well, let's throw in, I've been doing most of my processing on my phone these days on Lightroom, because they keep putting extra features in Lightroom on the mobile device that makes it much more fun to do that. I don't know why. It's like it's so much nicer for me than sitting on a computer and doing it, but that's me. So
you can, it's like doodling,
Yeah.
And it's improvisation.
Yeah.
There's a bit of a jazz component to it too. Hey, we do this, we do that.
Yeah.
Jack up the saturation. Oh, the horns are too bright. That's bad. I don't
know. Yeah. I'll be interested to see what technological stuff comes out this year in terms of cameras and software and stuff like that. I mean, as one final the notice of what was going on, the noise reduction software has gotten so insanely good in the past year. If you don't overdo it and make it look like it's artificial with artificial intelligence, it's done a real good job to almost knock out, like, you can almost, like, who cares about ISO these days? Like, shoot at 12,000. Who cares? You just drop it into Topaz, photo AI, and get rid of the noise and keep all the detail, and you're good to go. So it's, I didn't think that would be happening, but anyway. Cool. All right. I'm going, there's too many things. It's, I printed out 3 pages of stuff that we could talk about, and
it was a whole year. Keep it, we got to fit a whole year into an hour. So
yeah. Well, I think those are the ones that caught me the most. I mean, there's a lot of other stuff, but I think, the Trent Parke and AI and the other stuff we're talking about, I think was really kind of hitting. And the last thing is, like, new cameras are coming out. So, but I'll talk about them when I get it. So the next shiny thing.
I'll turn into a gear review show.
Yeah, no, I'm sure everybody who listens to us, they'll say, "You guys are so good at this." I'm like, I'm going to pick up a lens and say, this lens is too heavy. It's got a thing that does this, and people are like, "What are you're reviewing a gear on a podcast?" Yeah, well, what are you going to do? We're doing a photography show on a podcast, right? So we're talking about images, and describing it. All right, so let's wrap. I think that's good. So where are you found these days? Where are you lurking?
Find me if I can find myself here first.
I found you. So
Vero, Twitter, and Blue Sky at W Rosin Photo.
You're on Blue Sky now.
I'm on Blue Sky.
Wait a minute.
I haven't posted anything yet.
A lot of applause. Yeah, start posting. So you're on Blue Sky as what?
Yeah, W Rosin Photo. So new work, I'll start posting there.
Okay, cool.
Instagram, I'm at Ward Rosin Fine Art. Facebook, you can find me at Ward Rosin Photo. My website, which is still woefully inadequate, but I have hopes for it, is at rosin.ca, and our unofficial sponsor is Ornis.photo. So, and I want to thank the people that are interested in it. I sell manual focus 7 Artisans lenses and filters. My neutral density filters. I've sold a few of those lately. So, it's a fun thing, a nice little side hustle. And what about you, Antonio?
And you said people, you want to thank you said you wanted to thank people. You say I cut you off when you said that.
I want to thank people for their interest and so on. And now that from my Canadian customers, now that the postal strike is over, you can go ahead with your orders if that's what you were thinking. Yeah. So, yeah. All right, what about you, Antonio? Where can we find you?
All right, Blue Sky at AM Rosario, Instagram, which is I dabble, AM Rosario Photo. My website is amrosario.com. Facebook, Rosario Photo. You get where I'm going with this, right?
You sure like that name, Rosario.
Rosario, yeah. Although, subscribe to our Substack newsletter, please. I know you said you're going to do an article at some point, but that's cool. It'd be great for you to do something about what we're talking about. But anyway, streetshots.substack.com. We've been getting a lot of great referrals from Barry and X's Candid Frame. But sign up there. It doesn't hurt to sign up, and I'm not spamming anybody yet. So anyway, if you want to say greetings to us with your voice, leave us a voicemail at speakpipe.com/streetshots. And if you would like to buy us a coffee like Dan Sudberg did, we really appreciate it, Dan. Thank you so much. You can buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Antonio Rosario. So thank you for all that. Thank you for all your support, and any chump change you guys send our direction is really appreciated. It helps literally buy us a coffee. I mean, I just drank one today, so I'll chalk that up to it's what kept me awake for doing the show. Not that I was bored or anything like that. I was just it's the end of the day, and it's been a long holiday thing. But so Ward, I probably won't talk to you a few more days until New Year's. So have a great New Year's. Yeah,
you too, my friend.
Yeah, and to everybody out there who, whatever holiday you're celebrating now, please have a good one. And we will see you next year. We'll hopefully have more people. I know a couple of people. Some of our gosh, I'm spacing out our unusual fellows and
unusual collective
fellettes collective. Yeah, we might have a surprise guest on. Hopefully she'll agree to be on the show. I'm dropping a hint.
Oh, that might be interesting.
It will be interesting. All right. Okay. So everybody have a great New Year, and Ward, thank you for spending some of your evening with me tonight.
No problem. I'm always happy to do it.
All right, everybody have a good holiday, and see you next year, and ciao.
Good night.